1 year, well, a little over a year since we've been really into it. But I mean, this, I guess you could say our first fiscal year of things, full fiscal year, correct?
Yeah, and this is actually, we're going into our third year now. The first year was all
Okay.
prototype development, eating our own dog food, just printing for ourselves with all the new commercial equipment and using our platform, building out the platform. Second year actually started in February, really, is when we opened it up to the public, remember? Because we went down to the show in Long Beach.
Well, yes. I mean, we're almost 12 months from the first show in Long Beach.
Right. Just about there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just about there. And then that was, so now our first year open to the public, like year on year, will be the end of January. And now we're literally, you could kind of say, call it, we're a year in, and we're, we're going into year number 3 now. So starting year 3.
Yeah. Wow. It seems longer than that. But it's also been really fast. Fast, fun, hectic, stressful, which is kind of what we want to get through, is the last 11 to 12 months of working with, dealing with, navigating us being open to shops, customers, the public, really, right? Kind of that go through what we thought it was going to look like and then what it actually was, kind of the reflection of 2025, what we learned, what we battled, what we experienced, and ideally get to how that's going to help us and help our customers in 2026.
Yeah, I think 2025 was, like, I heard Elon Musk on a podcast recently talking about you learn more from blowing up the rockets than you do from successful launches.
Oh, for sure.
So
yeah.
I feel like we spent a solid, I feel like we just spent a solid 12 months blowing up rockets and learning a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Recent book I'm reading kind of dives into business development, entrepreneurship, and one of the big, they call them laws, but I guess it would be kind of things to help navigate business, is trying to out-fail your competitors, fail more than everybody else. I think we've been really good at that.
I think, depending on how you define failure, yeah, I think we failed a lot on purpose, because my opinion is, like, we started doing this in the beginning because we didn't like what we were getting from everybody else, because we were actually pressing and selling directly to consumers in our own local market in Iowa, where we have our production shop. We did not like what we were getting, and we knew we could do a better job for ourselves. And so we did. We got our own stuff, started doing a better job for ourselves. Then we thought, well, if we can do it for ourselves, we can do it for other people. And we knew that would be opening up an entirely new set of problems and challenges. And so when we did that in 2025 and started building a good, loyal customer base of professional shops, I think we really started learning what we didn't know that we didn't know, and breaking down a lot of our assumptions. I mean, look, at the end of the day, nobody cares about our story. I think what people care about is, how are they going to be able to work with somebody that they're going to outsource direct film transfers and grow their business where it's kind of reliable? Because here's one of my biggest learnings, and then I throw this back over to you. People are very scared to give up agency over such a critical part of their supply chain. And, just that touch and getting to know people and learning, what they really needed to be able to outsource confidently. I think that was a huge learning for me. I don't know what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, thanks for leading into one of my big points here, because I was just going to ask you if you could, before we dive into the nitty gritty, how would you summarize 2025 in one sentence? But I think that gets to the point of it. So I'll give you my opinion on that.
Well, just to answer your question, 2025, if I were going to put it down in one sentence, learning what we didn't know that we didn't know.
Yeah, so that works.
You could say a lot of things.
Yeah, I know. It's a struggle, because there's a lot of things I want to say. So one sentence is tough, but the first thing that comes to my mind is, good isn't always good enough. We always try to push I feel like what we've learned is that everybody else, okay, let me not learn, summarize. A lot of the big players out there settle for good enough, and that's good enough for a lot of people. But what we've really brought to shops, customers, and people that have trusted us and within ourselves, that we keep reminding is, and thing I have to think about every day is, good isn't good enough. We can't just stop there. And I think that's one of the things that summarizes us and our growth and why we've gone from, this rinky dink booth at Long Beach in 2025 to, man, where we're at right now, beginning of 2026.
Yeah, actually, just to build on what you were saying there, I whenever we go to shows, I would walk around and try to talk to people because, I would disappear and you'd be like, where'd you go? And I'm like walking around talking to people and just getting feedback on things. The funny thing is like no less than 5 relatively big vendors. And I'm not talking about people that are printing, commercial DTFs for outsource, but, people that are selling heat presses and people that are selling supplies and things like that. When I tell them what we're trying to do, they're like, hey man, everybody's just fine. Like good enough is good enough. And I was just really disappointed in that. And that is not, we didn't set out to provide a service where good enough is good enough. And I just kind of found it shocking that was what a lot of the vendors' opinion was about the customers. And I'm like, but I know that our really good customers that rely on us, good enough's not good enough. Like they need things to be as precise as possible and as consistent as possible. And if we took that attitude of good enough is good enough, I just don't think that's the product I would even want to be selling, number one. And number two, I don't think that's gonna last.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I think we just kind of ended with what we've really, really, really learned and have taken away from 2025. Like that was probably one of the big headers of, like this continual message we keep hearing. But let's just to frame things.
We'll put a pin in that. Like what you're saying, good enough is good enough for most people, but that's just not where we want to be.
Right.
It's good enough is not good enough for us.
So let's go back to this time last year for us. Where we were in our own heads, you and I. We'll speak for Terry in this podcast too, because we will. And just our expectations, again, let's just assume we're 3 weeks out from Long Beach, our first actual show, who we thought we are, what we thought we were going to experience, and our big assumptions. Do you remember what your assumption or thought was going into that first big show?
There were a lot. And it's kind of hard to narrow down. I think man, it's a tough question. The first thing that pops into my head is I thought we were going to go to the first show and be like, I'll be happy if we pick up 100 new customers at this show. Right. And, the reality is that I think we went there and, I'm like, if we can pick up 100 new customers at every show, this is going to be awesome. But I think now we've kind of settled on if we find, a fraction of those customers at every show that are good customers that purchase frequently and help them grow their business, that expectation has changed significantly. Right. Because I think I thought that because I look at competitors and I say, oh, they've got 50,000 ratings and I know how big the market is and I know how many people are ordering shops. What I think we found out is like 90% of the people we talk to at a show, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this out loud, but 90% of the people we talk to at a show seem to be very much DIY and hobby, and they're looking for something completely different. But 10% of the people we talk to at the shows actually are really serious about building a business, owning and kind of dominating the market they're in, and are looking for a real partner. So my biggest assumption going in is that, we were going to talk to a whole lot of super qualified people that were like what a lot of our best repeat customers are like. And picking up 100 people at a show is not necessarily, that was something I really thought was going to be what we're going to do getting on a plane to do. And then finding out that it's more like really finding the customer that's more like what our shop is like in Iowa. That was a big, I think, something that a misconception that I had at the shows. That's probably not the answer you're looking for, but that was the first big thing that popped into my mind coming into the Long Beach show, the second time we do the Long Beach show up at ISS.
Yeah, I think, you basically just summarized our learning evolution from show to show to show. As every time we go to a show, this is what we'd expect. This is what we'd plan for. The show would go, we'd come back, we'd work, never quite did the everything that we wanted to. We keep curating our show experience, our booth, our message, how we worked with people. And I think that if I look back at 2025, you know, a year ago from today, knowing we were going to Long Beach, similar to you, is like, well, we'll just show up and people will see our cool technology and be like, oh, I have to have it. And that definitely wasn't the case. I mean, what I thought people would care about is absolutely not what people care about. And I think that's one of the biggest things I took from shows and has really helped us evolve how we go about speaking to shops, customers, helping them understand how we can be a valuable resource in their shop. So the thing that surprised me was, well, first of all, everybody always asks where we ship from. And I never thought we'd get that question. If you'd asked me, like, what do you think the top 10 questions you'll get at the show? That would have never hit it. And without doubt, 80% of the people that come into the booth, that's one of the first questions they ask. Where do you ship from? Where are you located? I'm like, why does this matter? And so that was surprising to me. The other part was just how difficult it is to get them to change their behavior around what they're just consistently doing in the shop. Even if it saves them money, saves them time, and makes things easier for them, if it's not a simple behavior switch, it's just not going to happen. So how much we ultimately had to carry and do things for them to get that behavior to change was a big surprise to me.
Yeah, I think there's a lot behind both of those things that you were talking about. But if I unpack one, where do I ship from being a question, I find that to be a really interesting question that they're asking. And I think ultimately all the people that have become good customers from all over the country, that is less and less of an issue for them now. Like maybe the root of why they ask that question is like, well, I can order locally and all DTFs are the same. All the quality is the same because it's just, hey, run it off a printer and you're good to go. There's no like understanding of like the equipment you're using, the time and trade, what it actually takes from a craftsmanship standpoint to deliver a high quality DTF. So they're like, anybody can just hit the print button. But if I can get it from down the street, I care about, I can just drop down and pick it up, or maybe the price is a little bit less expensive, et cetera, et cetera. But once they actually start using DTFs day to day in their business, that becomes the least of their concerns in my experience. So I guess if I summarize that question almost to me seems like a question coming from to steal from the gaming industry, a pretty newbie player. If I hear somebody ask me that question, I'm kind of like, how big is your shop really? Like, how much experience do you really have with DTF if that's your number one question? Because then the second question they ask is, tell me about your prices, where they'll say, I don't care about prices. I'd rather pay a little bit more for better quality and consistency. And then, how true is that as well? So I'm curious your thoughts on that one.
Totally. I mean, in this day and age, when you can ship overnight, ship next day, and I think a couple of our customers have said this to me, but I tend to agree with them. And the shipping thing is usually just a organizational issue on the business side of things. Like that's just a planning error for a lot of people. I can definitely understand why somebody would use somebody down the street. And that's when, we talk to customers in the booth and where are you getting your DTFs from currently, and like, I got a local guy. And then my next question is always, is it been, quality's good, you're getting it around, no issue, you feel like you're in a fair price? And the ones that say yes, then I just tell them, I said, good, you should keep working with them because that's not an experience that a lot of people have. And if you can have that reliability, quality, and you have that guy down the street, then perfect. Don't worry. But if you need something, let us know.
Yeah, I experienced the same thing. And then a lot of times those folks, as we saw, like they keep working locally, but we just let them know if there's ever a time when you need higher volume, come chat with us because we do have capacity to get a lot of volume out there. And a lot of times the local people they're buying from, they do an okay job. Good enough's good enough. And then all of a sudden, that local person's printing with a 24-inch wide printer and needs to do a lot of prints and they need it fast and they just can't get the volume out the door. And then they come to us and they see the difference. And then we end up doing a lot more business with them.
Yeah, I think to that point too, I think one of the things that surprised me throughout 2025 is how much backup quarterbacking we do. You know, like, oh, something happens in a shop and they have a DTF printer, they rely on us. You know, or they even have a DTF printer and their printer is fine, but they don't want to spend the time printing it all. Or, you know, like we, because of our production quality, our ability to scale it and get it out, you know, fast, there's a lot of people that I didn't expect that have DTF printers in their shop that come to us to do things smoother, faster, and more reliable when they need it.
Yeah. And I think there's that. And then we've also seen the interesting scenarios where they're buying from us, their business grows, then they end up doing enough volume that it makes sense to get their own printer. And we have, in a couple of cases, transitioned from being their DTF provider to being their consultant, because they're sort of like, how are you guys getting this white and this black and these thin lines and these, you know, sort of like, you know, things that we've had to work really hard to figure out how to do, they struggle with. And then we end up, we can't really be, it doesn't make sense for us to be their consultant because they buy their own printer. Hey, you're kind of on your own. We'll give you a few tips and tricks. But I do recall during the year, there were a couple instances where we literally had to say, hey, we'd love to spend the time with you, but really we have to focus on, you know, what we're doing here for the people buying prints from us too. So that was quite an interesting learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, you know, like, we succeed when our customer succeeds. And, you know, if they're growing enough, using DTF enough, and they succeed to get their own printer, great. But to that point, I think they learn quickly that it's not as easy as, you know, X, Y, and Z, check the boxes, and I'm going to print the magical prints. Because even at the scale and professionalism and the way we go at it, this is probably an expectation and also a learning thing of mine that has shifted throughout the year. It's really, really hard to print consistently day in, day out, nail everything all the time. It is, as much as I also wanted to believe that this shouldn't be such a hard task, it takes a lot of time, energy, and, you know, just work around to dial it in every single day. And I don't think most people understand that going into it. And or people that are just ordering from us, either way.
Yeah, I don't want to go too deep off script here. No, and honestly, what I'm about to say, I almost feel like I sort of want it to be a little bit buried, because it's a little bit of it is a little bit of inside baseball, I would say, related to what you're saying there. But one of the big learnings I had is everybody says we're the best quality DTF out there, but nobody defines exactly what that is. And number one, define what quality, how you actually measure quality. And number two, how you achieve the quality metrics that you're saying this is how we're measuring it. So for me, after the third or fourth or fifth trade show, talking to a lot of people, getting a lot of these prints out in front of people, we really narrowed it down to three things that we think define quality based on the end customer. In other words, like, we're selling prints to our customer, but they're selling the final product to their customer, right? And so, like, what is that customer expecting? That's defining quality. And for me, it boiled down to three things we talk about a lot now is hand feel. I mean, first thing somebody does at a booth is they walk up and they grab the shirt and they go, how does this feel? They touch it with their hands. The haptics, right? I love the fancy words, but it's like, how does it feel? The second thing people ask us is, what about the color? And the color is always about two things. It's either vibe, how bright is it? How poppy is it? Because they're just going for, you know,
aesthetically appealing.
Yeah. Or accuracy, right? And you can go deep into both of those, but color is the second thing they ask about. And the third thing they ask about is durability. And so, you know, so when we look at our competitors and like, we're the best quality prints, we make the best in the world, it's like, by what metric are you talking about, right? And I think one of the things that, because I like to be a data-driven person, is like, all right, well, if we're going to say if we want to be able to say we're the best, we have to figure out how we're going to measure that. And if we figure out how we're going to measure that, then we need to be objective about it. And, you know, what is the hand feel? How are we doing on color? And what is the durability on this stuff? And how do we make improvements on that?
I mean, I think you nailed it. I don't think I need to go too far into those things beyond what you've done, but it's been, you know, on our backside when you and I go, what can we do better, different? How can we evolve? The reality of becomes, you know, that's what we are thinking about. And, we're thinking about how does working on those three facets or qualities or characteristics, how does that help the shops we're working with? How do they grow because of that? And that's been a really cool thing to hear from shops and hear from customers about, because they're using us, they can rely on this. And because they're getting turnaround quick and X, Y, and Z, that they in their shop and in their local community have won different bids or gotten different opportunities to print things they might not have had because they're in the DTF line. And we like to think because of what we're enabling them with our service.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think those partnerships are the partnership in that is to me, that's the win, right? Like and again, I probably, cause I come from the medical profession a long time ago, but like, I just want to help people, and and when they
Dr.
win, you
AJ.
win, so there's probably some degree of like that part of it in it, but yeah, that's been really fun, just to know that they're also growing and changing, and we're doing that with them.
That was kind of like the first half of the year learning for me, was those quality metrics. But then as we started building our own lab here in Bozeman, and we started doing a lot more with, because we have a shop in Iowa where we actually do not only produce the DTFs that we outsource, but also, we provide a lot of full services to folks locally in Iowa. It's the only place where we do full fulfillment, because we've had a shop there for 30 years. But, so that team understands a lot of what we had to learn too, which is we can only do so much. This was a huge learning for me. Like, as a producer of the DTF, there's only so much we could do. So if your end goal is quality, what I've discovered is there's kind of three components to that. One is the artwork itself. Because if you have bad artwork, that's like buying bad ingredients and thinking you're going to make a gourmet meal. It's just not going to work, right? You don't go to the middle aisles of Safeway and expect to serve something at a 5-star restaurant with those ingredients. It's just not going to work. And so artwork is the base ingredient. And, that's why one of the things we're working on for 2026 is actually artwork services, which we'll talk about more as the year progresses. But in general, if you've got bad artwork, you cannot expect that you're going to have a great print. Assuming you have good artwork, we can get you 50% of the way there with a high quality print. So now you have great, I've got great artwork, I've got a great print. Then the third thing was, what kind of equipment are you heat pressing with? Mm-hmm. That there's so many different heat presses out there that it, first of all, you can't have a crappy heat press. Number one, you need to know that you've got, accurate pressure, accurate temperature, things like that. Secondly, even if you do have a high quality heat press, if you're not calibrating it, if you're not testing the temperatures of things, if you don't have a good heat press process, you could have the best heat press in the world, be like having a fantastic race car. That doesn't mean that you're going to be the first one to cross the finish line on the track. There is a bit of an art to the heat pressing. It's not hard, but there are some fundamental things about heat pressing that if you don't have a good heat press and you don't have a good process, the best art and the best DTF in the world aren't going to make any difference at all. And then when something doesn't turn out right, because we made the print, it comes back to us. And so the overall learning is how important for serious shops education actually is. Even the best shops that have been screen printing for years, just now getting into DTFs, or people that are doing signs, or people that are coming from the embroidery world. I think they're kind of shocked at how important the artwork is and how important the heat press equipment and process is beyond the print we send them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think this is a perfect segue. We've talked kind of through the year and the pain points or what we've learned, what we've seen. But if we kind of think of it as like what we thought we knew versus what we know now, right? So I'm gonna read something off and I want you to fill in the blanks.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Sure.
So you thought the industry was about blank, but it was actually about...
The first thing that popped into my mind, I thought it was about the equipment you're using to print. And it turns out it's really about, I'd say, time and trade. I mean, I might need to decode that for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think I get it. And I think I understand where you're coming from. Like, we thought it was as simple as having the race car and you're going to win the race. And the reality of it is it's spending time on the track, understanding, speaking an analogy, but like how to steer through the turns, how to accelerate, how to decelerate, how to, what kind of tires are you running? It's all those little things, the artwork, the pressing, it's the combination of all the ingredients rather than just having one good ingredient.
I mean, yeah, You can see an example of that at every single show you go to. Go to ISS coming up here soon. Go to DAX, go to GPX, go to everywhere. Just look at the way that direct film transfer printers are being sold, right? Hey, buy this printer. And I'm not going to call out any names or anything. I don't want to like identify anybody specifically, but I can tell you if you walk around that show and somebody's selling a printer, the reputable printer sales folks will say, hey, you can buy this printer, but you need to educate yourself. And here's all the things you run into, and here's what breaks, and here's the kind of maintenance they take and so forth. But 90% of them, they say they treat it like a desktop printer. They say, buy it, upload a file, hit print, good to go, you're done. Like that's it. And they set that expectation in people's minds, and it couldn't be, honestly, it couldn't be further from the truth. But if I go back to like what I thought, what my expectation was, like, hey, just buy good equipment, you're good to go. If you got a great printer, that's all you need to worry about, and you're going to get great prints. Couldn't be further from the truth. It really is. You've got time and trade and education and training, and it's a never ending rabbit hole of things to really get your prints dialed in. You know, you buy the best printer, I mean, expect to spend a year before you get in the results that you want if you're doing it at volume. And that was a hard learned lesson over the last, we've been doing this for 5 years. It's a hard learned lesson over the last 5 years, and it was really on display at all the shows this year. So there's just kind of the validation to like, this is what I thought versus this is what I learned.
So could you just say that it thought it would be easier and it ended up being a lot harder? That's what I heard.
Yeah, I guess I was trying to just be a little bit more specific and qualifying about it. But yeah, I thought it was just as easy as like, hey, go buy $500,000 worth of equipment, and you're gonna have great prints. But it's like, you know, it's just not the way it works. You can have the best equipment in the world, but if you don't know how to operate it, and you don't have the time and trade, or you don't understand how to maintain it and fly it, you know, it's not going to be that easy.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's something that we began to try and educate people about. And I think we do a good job about educating people on. And like you mentioned to begin that, like when you go to shows, people are trying to sell printers. And I think obviously from their point, that's the point they leave out, which is understandable. But all in all, yeah, it's not as easy as it looks, despite what everybody, including ourselves, want it to think and think it is. So, you want to add to that, or?
No, I think that's pretty. I think it's pretty well covered. But you know, you were saying the sales folks that are selling the printers for the most part, they're on commission. Their job is to sell a printer. They're there to sell a printer, and it's kind of like, I think a lot of those folks are like one and done on the commission on a printer sales. And so they're there to sell printers. And I feel like there's a lot of folks that'll just tell you what you want to hear to buy the printer. That being said, there are a lot of folks we met that were definitely, you know, honest and upfront about it. And here's where I will cap this off the printer. There are people that, you know, if you're running a small shop and you don't have the kind of environmental controls, things like that, and staff to buy a printer, run a printer, you're better off outsourcing. There are certain volume levels and shop levels where, and we could probably talk about numbers in another podcast, but you know, you really need to think hard and qualify yourself and make that lifestyle decision and that financial decision before you jump into it, because it could be more hassle and more heartache than it's really worth. And you can't just take the salesperson's word for it. Talk to some people that have run printers. Every show, I probably have a conversation about that 25 or 30 times every single show. I'll leave it at that, because I could talk for a whole hour just about only that. Yeah.
Yeah, you could, and you do, and all right.
Are you trying to say I talk too much?
Yes. I wouldn't say you talk too much. I think you talk around the point too much, but that's just me. 2 points. Let's talk pain points, because I feel like not everybody, but a lot of people see you and I at the show. They're like, man, these guys must have it easy. Like, he just gets us to use the website. They're just sitting around, drinking coffee, playing golf, riding bikes, you know, they live in Bozeman, like whatever. But I think, and you and I have different roles within the whole operation, as does Terry. So let's do this from your day-to-day work, right, over the last year. What would you say your two biggest pain points typically are or have been?
I could probably get into specifics, but I think I could boil it down to one specific pain point that I have to deal with every day. And that is
Me.
Yes. Clearly. I think the biggest pain point is figuring out how to meet customers where they are, because there's a myriad of things that fall out of that, but everybody's coming to us from a different point in their journey. They're coming at us with different skill sets, different resources, and just figuring out how to meet them where they are is probably the biggest pain point. One example of where that manifests itself, if you want a specific, is artwork. People come to us and they have a JPEG image that they want that came from Canva, and it has no transparent background. And that's tough. And you want to help them succeed. You need to remove backgrounds, but if it's a low resolution image and it's just dealing with everything that comes along with that is difficult. And so putting a lot of time behind education and putting artwork services in place, and a lot of times just helping them work with their artwork. I mean, look, I could go on for hours and hours about the artwork thing, but I would say meeting people where they're at on the artwork, that's one big example. Another example would be, say, meeting them where they're at on the equipment that they're using at their shop. Because maybe they're just a startup in a garage and they got a heat press off of Facebook, which is pretty common. They're not sure if this is going to be something they want to do for a living, and that's where they start. We've had a lot of folks go from that to like more advanced things as their business has grown. But, when they call us and say, hey, this thing's not sticking, it's not adhering and it's peeling off. And we're like, well, tell us about your heat press. And they're like, oh, and they put a heat gun on it and it's only getting up to, 230 degrees, and they're small and they can't even fully press it down. We don't want to just say, hey, this is your fault. We want to help meet them where they're at and educate them and try to get them into a better equipment or something like that if they're really going to do it for a living. So that's a couple of examples, but I think everything that I could even talk about boils down to meeting the customers where they're at instead of expecting them to meet us where we're at.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of answered that question with just a big bucket of other pain points. But
don't forget who you're talking to.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so you described more of the pain point that also comes from the sales side, or customer kind of partnership side that I come at it from. So I would say for me, pain points over the last year, sure, have been meeting the customer with where they're at and kind of helping them figure out to where they need to get to, which I would sum up and say is the industry selling the simplicity of this operation of just what does that big brand say? Print, press, profit. Come on, that's a bunch of garbage, And so that's my biggest pain point, is getting somebody to understand, you can't send this screenshot of your dog and want it printed nicely. And then you can't, just some of the again, and I hate to say this, but I coming from, transitioning out of the medical field and more into this, it's like the scope of professionalism is very low at the bottom and very, very small at the top. Whereas in that field, I would say, because you're dealing with people and not just prints and they can be thrown in the garbage, that the reality of trying to break into something is it's almost too simple.
Yeah.
And that ultimately makes it harder for the person trying to get into it, because they want it to be print, press, profit, and it's way more than that.
So I'll make a statement and then you tell me if you agree with this or not, and maybe expound on it. Right? The unkind truth is that direct film transfers is fast growing and creating an opportunity for people who are willing to do it and are not so anti direct film transfer because they're been in the screen printing industry for so long. They've got a high capital investment in screen printing equipment. They're like, direct film transfer sucks. It feels terrible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The reality is it creates an open door for, somebody with a startup mentality to get a heat press in their garage and do some fantastic work. But if that person who's trying to seize that opportunity has a good enough is good enough attitude, they're not going to win. The person who's going to win is the person who says, yeah, there's an opportunity. I'm going to seize it. They're going to be willing to work hard on the artwork. They're going to be willing to pay a little bit more for a quality print. And they're going to be willing to like put a little bit of money into some heat pressing equipment and time. And it, just like any other business, it's hard work. It sounds easy, but this whole print press profit thing that you talked about, it's like, that's a great pickup line, but that's not reality. It does accurately describe an opportunity to come in and say, hey, there's a chance, there's an opportunity in a market right now to really get going. But if you're not willing to focus on quality, there's 10% of the people in a market are going to own 90% of the market because they're willing to invest in quality and run a business. That's the unkind truth, I think, is that you still have to want to learn how to run a business. You still have to care about quality and customer care, right? And so print press profit is a great pickup line, but at the end of the day, like you got to go beyond that.
Yes, I agree.
I expounded too much.
Well, you're not wrong. I think you're right. That slogan represents an opportunity, but it doesn't represent the reality of what it takes to profit. And you know, being on calls with shops and ones that are, you know, oh, we bought a heat press, we're doing our garage, and then calls with shops that order 200,000 square inches of DTFs a month and are very successful and very large. Like, you can't just hang a sign and start a website that says we do apparel and expect it to just grow. Like, there is a side of the cool. Yes, you can print and press, but to profit, you got to get in front of people. You got to know how to make quality. You got to know how to sell yourself. You got to know how to get there in front of an audience, right? Like, so there's a other side of this, the sales side of it, that I think people want to be easy. That's not. And I think we are experiencing that as well, just because we have the best technology and have, you know, top tier quality, top tier colors, top tier service, doesn't mean that everybody's just going to flock to us. We have to ultimately play that game and prove ourselves within the industry to continue to grow at the fast rate that we're growing. So yeah, I get it, but and that's that whole business development side of DTF printing is probably something that we should save for another conversation, but it's one that gets very misrepresented.
All right, but put a finer point on it for me. You're talking to somebody you meet at a show. They say, hey, I'm just getting started. I've got a great heat press. Like, what are the 3 things? Just give me 3 things you would tell them that say, look, these are the 3 things that you just absolutely can't get wrong if you're going to succeed in your market. So we're going to be in Kansas City DAX in February this year, like a month and a half. You're going to be talking to folks in a small local market. They're going to be excited about growing their business. There's a lot of things you could tell them. I don't know, give me 1, 2, or 3 things that you say, like you can't miss on this.
You have to be able to meet your customer where they're at. Because again, so, you know, to that point, we see that customer growing and they are getting the JPEG image, or they're coming in and saying, I want this piece of artwork. So I would say having a professional level service to create artwork, or somebody that they know locally, or maybe they even start to have in-house or friend that's a graphic designer that can help them create good artwork, is pivotal. Because if you don't have, again, garbage in, garbage out. So they are putting in poor artwork, then they're going to get a poor outcome, and then their customer is not going to be excited about it. They're not going to come back. So I think finding a way to enhance their understanding, knowledge, and ability to work on artwork while also surrounding themselves with people, tools, and opportunities to help them through that would be important. And then I think it's just the biggest thing then would be, how are you going to get, I would ask them, how do you plan on getting customers? And some of these people are like, man, I've already got customers. This is going to be the easy part. And that might be like, okay, like, great, tell me. But some of these people are like, oh, this seems like an easy thing to do, but I'm not a very outgoing person. And it's like, well, you better find a way to go grab some market. Like, how can I help you understand that?
Either become an outgoing person or find somebody who is an outgoing person. You know, I think a more fair question would be, because we hear this sometimes too, I got a sign shop, I got a built-in customer base, people are asking me about it, what do I need to do? I'll cut it short. I'd say, look, find a good partner that you can outsource to. That's really critical. Talk to us, talk to other people, find somebody that you really feel comfortable outsourcing to. Make sure you get good equipment and make sure that you get the artwork thing. I totally agree with. It's funny. I hear so many people, like, they complain about their customers. It's like, don't complain about your customer because they give you bad art. Help them get you better artwork. Like, they're coming to you to spend some money. It's not that big of a lift to say, spend $50 or whatever it takes to get better artwork so you get a better outcome. Maybe you only break even on the first job, but honestly, like, that level of service and you being focused on your customer's success instead of on your success and meeting them where they're at, like you said, that's going to help you compete and win against other people who are just more interested in complaining about their customers. Don't complain about them. Help them.
Yeah. And I think that's where, for us right now in the journey, we spend most of our energy helping customers to make the process easy for them, which then ultimately makes, hopefully, when they're giving us good artwork and understanding colors and yada, 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 it does remove some of the energy and work for us. But again, that's something we are going to continue to have to evolve and figure out how to message that better and how to be more of a educational resource than just a print press profit machine.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's not that we never complain about the artwork we get from a customer. I don't think anybody's infallible, but I think you definitely complain the most.
Absolutely, but 80% of my complaints are about you and Terry.
All right, fine, fair enough.
Our customers
Fair
are
enough.
amazing. But yeah, I think that definitely hits to like some of our big shifts in mindset throughout the year,
Yeah.
what we thought we were going to have to do. And then that's what we ended up doing most and how we're approaching the problems we're seeing. But I think one of the other big things that we shifted, just to speak to real quick, because I'm sure people are
Bored.
bored, but probably not even listening at this point, but worth us mentioning is our name change.
That's true. Yes. That
Paul, would you like to tell people about the transition from DMN prints to pro transfers?
Well, no. I really look, Demand Prints, we were going to be like, hey, we're going to be Demand Prints. I mean, we thought about the name for a while, and then
Hold on.
Terry and I.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, fine. You were not involved in that.
Okay.
You weren't even here when that was going. I'm 100% willing to kind of like take responsibility for the Demand Prints name without the E. So it was just dmandprints.com, which you can still go to today. You'll always be able to go to, but it just wasn't a good name. And the thing I can say that's really great about me is that I'm willing to listen to people and and make changes. So after weeks and months of you saying, for example, listen, this is a terrible name. I finally just sat down, bit the bullet.
You did bought the bullet ultimately too.
I did buy it because, protransfers.com was a name that somebody already had. It was not being used. And it just seemed like exactly what we do. And it was not cheap. And I made the personal investment to make that name change and go to Pro Transfers. And it's long story short, it was a name that we thought we liked. 3/4 of the way through the year, it just turned out like people were struggling with it. It was hard, it was hard to say, it was hard to find. And then we also learned, hey, what we're really trying to do is provide people with professional quality heat transfers that, to be honest, like the equipment we use is used in a lot of really big professional environments that are producing transfers for the NFL and for Tier 1 or Division 1 athletics and big brands like Red Bull and Nike and Adidas and things like that. But you can't buy prints from those folks. They're producing professional quality prints, but they're an in-house team that shows up at 5 a.m. and, does maintenance on their machines and has like an hour-long shutdown process and then is constantly like improving things as an in-house team, right? That's what we were trying to provide, and it was sort of like professional level transfers, and then we were able to afford the protransfers.com name, and we spent the last couple of months really focusing on that, and it's taken a lot of energy, and it's taken away from a lot of the other plans we had to get it ready for the trade show season coming up. But there you go. You asked me a question like that, and then I'm like, I'm not going to talk for a short amount of time about it. But yeah, protransfers.com, new name, same team. Back to you, Jim.
Perfect. Demand Prints was a fun little experiment. I think it allowed us to get off the ground. Well, it's not a bad name. It just wasn't the name that helped people understand who we are, what we did, or what we were about. And we quickly learned that at shows, you either got to leave all the vowels out or have them all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pro Transfer Switch, I think, is going to be much more representative of our ethos and mission and how we serve the greater branding and apparel. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too.
Right on. So speaking of changes, anything else worth mentioning about 2026 and where we/pro transfers are headed?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing I keep thinking about, because we talk about we're really hard on ourselves, and we have been over the course of 2025. And even though we knew this was our year to blow up rockets and really learn and figure things out, and not just like what our own thoughts were, but trying to build a product based on what our customers are telling us that they really need and care about, and like getting rid of our own opinions and trying hard to listen. I mean, we have been really hard on ourselves over the year. And I think we'll continue to be very hard on ourselves. And sometimes that gets a little bit disheartening. But now that we're at the end of 2025, we look back to where we were at our first show last year in the booth with the green screen, horrible presence. I mean, arguably the worst looking booth anyone has ever seen.
We started taking t-shirts down because people were giving us a hard time about how bad the DTFs were.
I mean, it was a phenomenally bad show for us. I just can't believe anybody who walked by the booth we had there was like willing to even stop as hard as we were.
We do have some great customers from that show.
We do.
And I think that goes to show the relationship and the partnership we really want to have with people and how they grow.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. I mean, it's as hard as we are on ourselves, we made a lot of really great progress over the course of 2025. And what I'm kind of stoked about for 2026 is that if we continue to be that hard on ourselves and hold ourselves to the higher and higher and higher standards that we continually try to hold ourselves to, if we can make the same level of improvements that we made in 2025, and we can maintain that pace going into 2026 in the years ahead, I think we're just, we're going to put ourselves in a position to be a really great partner for the customers we already have and the customers that we want to acquire and people that are out there wanting to kind of like add direct film transfers to their lineup, or just start from scratch, right? Just whether you're somebody being a startup and just starting from scratch, or, they've already got an existing building or business, right? So that's what I just trying to keep in mind for 2025, is not been hard on ourselves, but like really looking back at how much we've learned and trying to carry that forward to 2026.
Yeah. We are not short on motivation to be the best, because I'm even mad when one print out of 2 million square inches over the course of a week is a little messed up. It's like, that doesn't fly with me. I mean, it's reasonable, but like you said, we are hard on ourselves, which again, I think drives our quality, our success, and the service and deliverables we're giving to our customers. Again, the rate of which we changed and learned in the last 365 days or whatever. Ideally, again, in 365 days from now, I'll be curious to see what we're talking about, because half the things we just said in the last 40 minutes or whatever, they were foreign language to me a year ago, which is pretty cool, because now we're able to, again, be more effective, be more relatable to customers, understand what they're going through, and really just be a valuable resource to them, their customers, and the success of them growing. We're not successful unless they're successful.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to be really hard. Like one benefit we had last year is we had a beginner's mindset. We kind of like, Terry doing production, having had worked with everybody for years and years, she was the one that really kind of knew a lot of things, but we were coming at a lot of this with a beginner's mindset. I have some opinions about things now, and I think you do too.
Just now?
Well,
Sorry. Yes, Paul and I are very opinionated people.
Yeah, it's always a lot easier when you're brand new at something. When you're brand new at something, it's easier to admit when you're wrong and learn, right?
Yeah.
Like as a mountain biker, I always thought I was a fantastic mountain biker, and then it was really hard for me to learn anything from you when it came to mountain biking, because like I've been mountain biking. I'm 51. I've been mountain biking since I've been 18 years old, and I just don't think anyone's going to teach me anything. So it's really hard for me to have a beginner's mindset around.
Well, yeah, your stubbornness is part of that issue, but yeah, go on.
And so I think that one of the things I really want to pay attention to in 2026 is to continue to have a beginner's mindset, to continue to be open-minded, listen to what our customers are telling us is important to them, whether it's artwork or how does it feel because we want to think our stuff is the best. We argue about this a lot, you know, where it's frustrating because you're like, I'm like, ours feels the best. And then you say like, all right, well, here's something from somebody else and hold it up and then close your eyes and tell me which one's ours and which one's theirs. And like, I don't want to hear that, but I do it anyways. And I'm like, after 4 or 5 times, I'm like, okay, fine. We have to figure out a way to make this better. And just that tenacity to like push me to do that has been helpful, much like the name change. And we got to be able to continue to do that into 2026 to look at ourselves under a microscope with real objective data and try to make improvements.
Yeah, and just jumping off that because I think we're getting to the end of both of our
level of patience. Dude, nobody's listening to this right now.
No, Jenny might listen to it.
No way.
Just hinting at a little bit more 2026 stuff. You know, we've invested a lot of money and time into our Bozeman lab here, which is background. I don't know if people can see it or not. Paul and I are going to go deep on science, technical things. Like our wives don't even know we really exist anymore because we spend most of our time in this little cage trying to tinker on stuff that matters to us. And so a lot more content coming down the pipe with that, you know, because we enjoy that. More educational stuff. We might unroll out some different partnerships come throughout the year, some other opportunities, this, that, and the other stuff. But yeah, 2026 is going to be a good one because I ate pickled herring yesterday morning, first thing in the morning, and then
Gross.
We had black-eyed peas at your house. So our superstitions are crossed off and we're good for this year.
Yep. I'm looking forward to learning what I don't know that I don't know yet.
Man, the possibilities there are endless. Sorry.
This is absolutely true. Any predictions for 2026?
Yeah, I think my biggest prediction is Paul's going to spend way too much money on unnecessary things around golf and probably some other hobby he'll pick up that is expensive.
I'm going to go back to flying airplanes.
Yeah, so there you go. Predictions for 2026. Wait, goals? Predictions?
I don't know. Combine them. Smash them together.
Prediction 2026. I think we're going to have at least one, if not two, larger print or DTF companies try to purchase us again.
I'm just going to say I'd be okay with that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we've had and dealt with that already. And, you know, I think more and more people are going to see the value in who we are and what we're doing from in the industry, you know, other industry players, which I will be happy about because that means we're probably doing something right. But
we'll certainly be on more people's radar than we were last year.
Yeah, I mean, just because of...
I'm sure we're starting to cut into their...
markets, goals. Yeah, whatever. But it's hard for me to set expectations or goals without putting an objective thing on it. And right now my mind's blanking on objective things that don't revolve around customer acquisition or, you know, standard average square inches per day or whatever month thing. So if you have some, go for it because I need a second.
Here's a prediction that I think we're going to see. I think you're going to see a trend in this industry towards consolidation. We think about this a lot, actually. That one of the things that direct film transfer has done is it has decreased the barrier to entry to do what people are doing, right? If you want a 15 color shirt, you don't need a 15 color wheel and, you know, $100,000 to $1 million worth of equipment and buildings to do it. You can have a corner of your garage and do that shirt, do it well. And direct film transfers have gotten to a point that with good artwork, you can have a great hand feel and really good durability and produce that. But on the flip side, what that's enabling is it's going to enable consolidation. And so you look at people that are running their own, that they're selling transfers, but they're running their own print houses. And so I think you're going to start seeing consolidation from, you know, big players are like, maybe you don't have to get this done in your local market. But that's something that we are just firmly committed to not doing. Like one of our first principles is create value for local markets. And so this is a long way of saying, I think consolidation will continue in 2026. And I think we're going to help people find success in their local markets by providing them with, great prints so they can build a far superior product in their local market, compete based on quality rather than kind of trying to figure out some defensive mechanics that they can use. So The example I keep giving is we want to be more like Turo, where you go to the airport and you're renting a car from a local, somebody who's giving you a BMW for the same price that you're going to get a crappy car at Hertz from, right? I think local people can provide a far superior product if they're given the right tools and technology to do so. So I think consolidation in 2026 is going to grow. And I think that that's actually going to provide an opportunity to empower local markets to compete with a high quality product. I honestly feel like that's probably my biggest prediction for 2026. That nothing to do with us, but everything to do with, what our customers are dealing with in their market.
I don't need to add to that.
Yeah, probably went in a bit different direction than what we were either one of us were expecting. But
as long as we continue to have customers start with us, return with us, give us the feedback they're giving us, and again, like some of them have been telling us over 2025, the way that they are growing by using us, then I'm happy. My goal is also to ride more miles than I did last year.
Yeah, that's a great personal goals. Go for that. That's a good way to do you want to wrap it up on personal goals?
Sure, let's do that.
All right.
Because it's probably just us talking to one another now.
Yeah.
So now you can understand why
I do feel like
I won't be working as much as you want me to be next year, because I'm going to be. Anyway, personal goals for me, be on my phone less when I'm with my wife, because I kind of live on it all the time right now. I'm one of those people, I guess. But so that's one of them. The other one for me, I like to race bikes, and got some big races on the schedule. So I'd like to perform well at those, which would require me to probably, ride some more miles, get some different workouts in. I've got some big trips around it, maybe gain a couple more sponsors, buy more expensive bike stuff, or maybe be gifted more expensive bike stuff, I guess.
I think Pro Transfers is going to be in a position to sponsor anything. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you want to buy a golf cart.
I do want to buy a golf cart.
For no reason at all.
No, there's a damn good reason to buy a golf cart.
Doesn't even have a golf membership.
We do have a golf membership.
To an indoor golf place.
Which is awesome.
True. Thanks, Jake and Paul. At
Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, that's it.
Rocky Mountain Golf.
Yep.
Yeah, in Four Corners, just outside of Bozeman. Tip of the hat.
Yeah, Paul is definitely keeping their business running with all the things he's buying.
I do hope that my wife has not made it to the end of this.
Yeah, you haven't bought anything in like a couple
podcast.
months. Yeah, that's right.
That's not true. It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up.
All right, but I get my personal goals.
Oh, you have goals?
Yeah, personal goals.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
go. And then I think you and I should both make a goal for Terry, and then we'll call it good.
Yeah. Okay, my personal goals. More writing this year. I actually
Riding or
writing.
Riding.
R-I-D-I-N-G.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. I've got the e-bike for around here, and I may want to get a downhill bike, because now that I'm 51, I think I want something that's a little smoother down the hill than my enduro bike at Big Sky. Just going to be a little bit less, finger breaking. I only broke one bone last year riding my pinky. But then I didn't even go to the doctor for it because they messed up my other fingers. Which leads me to the other goal. I want to get better at golf.
Well, considering where you're starting from, that shouldn't be too hard. Just kidding.
I mean, let's be honest.
Maybe one of my goals should be to
I got
rip
a lot
on
better
you
this
last
year.
Well, you played with me.
That's true. That's true.
You become what the average of the 5 people you or spend the most time with. So I mean, that's a really good thing for you, considering how much time you spend with me.
There's some downsides to that, but
how much weight did you lose in 2025?
It's been up and down, but probably 20 pounds.
I'm taking full credit for that.
Okay.
I'll take credit for 18 pounds of that. And it's not because I was fat shaming you, because you're not fat.
Well, I don't mind being fat shamed. I think Ansel's responsible, my 8-year-old, for 2 things, because he likes to walk up and slap my belly and say, "You're fat, Dad. Get on your bike." So I've been doing a lot of Peloton riding and things. So, but I think, I think we'll get a membership to the local Muni course, so that I can just roll over there in the neighborhood golf cart and get a lot more outdoor time in. So
you get more outdoor time in if you walked the golf course.
You're just asking. Look. Let's not get crazy.
Paul walks 18 holes every Tuesday from 4 to 6 at the indoor golf range.
It's not even that far anymore because we figured out how to speed it up.
We gotta. All right.
We should wrap up. What about Terry?
Goal for Terry. You go.
Business goal or personal goal?
But it's a business goal for Terry, and you got to say it like Terry would say it. Because I don't think Terry will listen this far, and people have definitely turned it off.
Yeah, everybody's turned this off. There's no reason to listen to this unless you're just incredibly bored. This is basically more like business therapy for you and me than it is for anybody.
That's what it's turned into.
That would say. But at least if this is the resurrection of the podcast. I'd love to go back and see the first ones that we did. They would like what garbage. So congratulations if you've made it this far. I really don't think you have. Terry, goal for Terry this year. Joking aside, we've talked about this. It is quality. Terry's 100% accountable for the quality of the product that comes off of our production line. And whether it's a purchase or technology or hiring people or whatever, if it doesn't directly or some way in a meaningful way contribute to quality, it's not even on our radar. It's like we don't even want to discuss it. So for her, it's all about quality. It has to improve every single day. Like, we've made leaps and bounds. I'm not trying to say, look, we're garbage. We have our warts, right? But it's just like a constant focus on everything that impacts quality out the door on what comes off our production line. Goals is, I would love to see us go millions of square inches and weeks without a single avoidable quality issue. That would be the goal that I would set. Something
that would help get to that point, I think, for Terry, if she had a goal, would be to have 50% less missed calls from me, because that means things are going smoother.
You're lucky she has not listened this far in the podcast.
She probably complains about us more than we complain about her.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But to a certain extent, we probably deserve it. Anyways, what do you think? Should we wrap it up here?
Done.
All right. Thanks for not making it this far. If you did, let's kick it off. I'm going to hit stop right now. Good? All right.